Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Teena Jha with the news. Over the next 30 minutes, I'll take you through the day's developments across India and the world. As always, first the headlines. Need to make villages self-reliant and strong, says Prime Minister Modi at Panchayat Mahasammelan in Gujarat. Post-poll verdict, political activities intensify for government formation in the BJP states of Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Goa and Manipur. In Punjab, Bhagwant Mann to take oath as the Chief Minister on 16th of March. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla underscores the role of youth in making democratic institutions accountable to the public. And Russian military forces bomb western cities of Ukraine. President Putin approves volunteers fighting alongside Russian troops. Also, the Indian Air Force plane brings evacuated Indian students from Poland. India thanks Russia, Ukraine and the Red Cross for help in the evacuations. And before we get you details on these headline stories, a quick look at some other highlights of the day. India and China hold core commander level talks in Ladakh. Prime Minister Modi congratulates South Korea President-elect Yoon Suk Yeol on victory in presidential polls. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chairs post-budget meeting with stakeholders, calls digital technology key for development. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu urges all states to implement national education policy. In an unfortunate incident, one pilot killed, another critical as army chopper crashes in Jammu and Kashmir's Bandipora. Ayush Minister Sarbanand Sonowal addresses seminar on Ayurveda Ahar Swasth Bharat Ka Aadhar in New Delhi. Union Minister Smriti Irani hits out at Delhi government for not releasing funds worth 13,000 crore rupees to 3 municipal corporations of the national capital. Kerala allocates 2,000 crore rupees to acquire land for semi-high-speed Silver Line rail project. Oil prices decline around 3% even as US bans Russian oil imports. India's foreign exchange reserves reached to $631.92 billion US dollars, record an increase of $394 million US dollars. Well, the results of assembly elections in 5 states are out, but election fever is far from over. So let's begin the bulletin with assembly news. On a 2-day visit to Gujarat, Prime Minister Modi on Friday addressed the Mahapanchayat conference in Ahmedabad. He said the Panchayati Raj system is a significant step in realizing the dream of Gram Swaraj. He also said public representatives, Panchs and Sarpanchs have a special role in fulfilling it.
ग्रामीण विकास ये पूज्य बापू का सबसे प्रमुख सपना रहता था। वे लोकतंत्र की शक्ति भी ग्राम शक्ति में देखते थे और इसलिए लोकतंत्र में जिसका विश्वास है उन सबको समर्पण भाव से ग्रामीण सारी व्यवस्थाएं उसको बल देना, उसको सामर्थ्य देना, ये उनका स्वाभाविक कर्तव्य बन जाता है।
Earlier, the Prime Minister held a road show in Ahmedabad a day after the BJP's victory in Uttar Pradesh, Manipur, Uttarakhand and Goa. Riding an open jeep, the Prime Minister shook hands with supporters and fans who had come along to greet him. The convoy started from the airport and went to Kamalam, the state headquarters of the BJP in Gandhinagar. And efforts to form a new government are picking up steam in Uttarakhand. Union ministers and BJP leaders Piyush Goyal and Dharmendra Pradhan are the observers to choose the BJP legislature party leader in the state. A day after the resounding victory of the party, Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami resigned after the completion of the tenure of his government. The BJP has won a two-thirds majority, winning 47 seats out of 70. However, Dhami, the Chief Minister who led the party to victory, failed to retain his seat.
नया जनादेश मिल गया है और इस कालखंड का जो काम था वो कालखंड पूरा हुआ है, तो मैंने महामहिम राज्यपाल जी को अपने समेत पूरे मंत्रिमंडल का इस्तीफा दे दिया है.
From the hill state to the coastal state of Goa, where Chief Minister Pramod Sawant chaired a cabinet meeting that resolved to recommend the dissolution of the Legislative Assembly on 14th of March. The BJP won 20 out of 40 seats in the assembly elections, results for which were declared on Thursday. A resolution was also passed to thank the voters. The term of the current assembly ends on the 15th of March. The BJP is the single largest party in the state, winning 20 seats. It has the support of regional MGP and 3 independent MLAs as well to form the government for the third time in a row.
3 साल के हमारे टेन्योर में जो हमने आभार व्यक्त करने के लिए जो काम किया, उसने लोगों ने सहकार्य किया, इसलिए उनसे आभार व्यक्त किया. और दूसरा रेजोल्यूशन जो हमारे असेंबली का टेन्योर जो खत्म हो रहा है, उसके लिए 14 तारीख को असेंबली डिसॉल्व का रेजोल्यूशन जो लिया. 20 सीट्स हमें जो मिले हैं और इंडिपेंडेंट 3 सीट्स हमें सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं और एमजीपी के 2 सीट्स पे हमें सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं.
Bhagwant Mann, the Aam Aadmi Party's chief ministerial face in Punjab, met Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal at his residence on Friday. The Aam Aadmi Party, remember, has won 92 out of the 117 assembly seats in the state, and Bhagwant Mann himself won from Dhuri seat with a margin of over 58,000 votes. The oath-taking ceremony is expected to be held in Khatar Kalan, the ancestral village of freedom fighter Bhagat Singh in Navan Shahar district.
बहुत अच्छा लग्या कि लोगों ने हंकारी लोगों को हराया और लोगों ने आम लोगों को जिताया. खटकड़ कला में ओथ लेंगे भगत सिंह जी के गांव में, पैतृक गांव में.
Meanwhile, Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi submitted his resignation to Governor Banwari Lal Purohit. Several heavyweights of the Congress, including the Chief Minister Prakash Singh Badal as well and Captain Amrinder Singh, had to face defeat in the elections. So while the BJP is set to form governments in 4 of these 5 states that went to polls, and the Aam Aadmi Party is set to start its innings in Punjab, in our next report, we bring before you the key takeaways from the results. What has been the voters' message? Let's find out.
Ahead of the general elections 2 years later, Verdict 2022 has thrown up a few inescapable political truths, starting of course with the obvious one. Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains by far the most popular political leader in the country. Having proven his credentials by being re-elected as Chief Minister of the country's most populous state, Yogi Adityanath looks set for a more robust national presence. Both the BJP and the AAP have shown that policies and schemes, be it central or state, if implemented well, will get converted into votes. Increasing participation of women voters has redefined electoral issues that now clearly center around on toilets, rations, safety, law and order and security. The scale of AAP's victory in Punjab shows that it is no longer a Delhi-focused party. The AAP's electoral opportunity in Punjab will also be a test for the sustainability of its heavy on social spending model of governance beyond Delhi. Coinciding with the decimation of the Congress, the rise of AAP is a pointer to emergence of new rivals for the BJP at the national level. For the Congress, the loss of Punjab and its complete irrelevance in a politically important state like Uttar Pradesh shows the futility of its piecemeal approach to issues. The results also show that once solid vote bank of Bahujan Samaj Party has suffered a sizable dent.
Moving on to some other news, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla has underscored the role of the youth in India's progress through economic development and innovation. Birla was addressing the closing ceremony of the National Youth Parliament Festival in the Central Hall of Parliament, emphasizing that India will become a Vishwa Guru with youth power. Speaker Birla said India today has more than 60,000 startups and over more than 80 unicorns, all being led by youth. Over 2,44,000 youth from across the country took part in the National Youth Parliament Festival this year.
ये विशाल युवा भारत किस तरीके से हमारे नए बदलते भारत में योगदान देगा। किसी समय बहुत चर्चा होती थी बढ़ती आबादी की, नौजवान की बेरोजगारी की, लेकिन आज समय बदल गया है। आज भारत का नौजवान केवल नौकरी मांगने नहीं जाता। आज भारत के नौजवान की सामर्थ्य शक्ति इतनी है कि वह नौकरी देने वाला भी बन रहा है।
News now from states. West Bengal Finance Minister Chandrima Bhattacharya presented a budget of 3,21,000 crore rupees for the year 2022-23. The BJP boycotted the budget presentation. The announcements included an exemption of registration fee for battery and CNG-run vehicles and also exemption of road tax for a period of 2 years. The governor of Arunachal Pradesh called upon members of the Legislative Assembly to ensure equitable, non-discriminatory, sustainable and consistent development across the state. In his address to the 5-day budget session, the governor expressed confidence that the Pema Khandu government will be able to realize the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Also, Maharashtra's Finance Minister and Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar presented the state budget for the year 2022-23. He announced opening of hospitals for women in many districts and 100 crore rupees fund for the startups. Down south in Kerala, Finance Minister K.N. Balgopal presented his state's budget for the year 2022-23. His proposals include a new IT park, 4 IT corridors and 20 satellite IT centers. The proposed IT corridor will be built parallel to National Highway number 66. Also, the 2022-23 budget for Andhra Pradesh proposes expenditure of 2,56,000 crore rupees and an estimated revenue deficit of 17,036 crore rupees. The total public debt of the state is estimated to increase to 4,39,394 crore rupees in the year 2022-23. An all-party meeting was called by the Speaker of the Madhya Pradesh Assembly. Various issues related to smooth running of the session were discussed by the members. And in West Bengal, BJP Chief Whip Manoj Tigga and 2 suspended MLAs, Mihir Goswami and Sudeep Mukherjee, met Governor Jagdeep Dhankar. The legislators said the action against them was discriminatory. The Congress announced 6 more candidates for the Bihar Legislative Council elections. It had earlier announced 8 candidates on the 5th of March. And now with this announcement, the Congress has so far announced 14 names. Voting will be held on 4th April for 24 seats. CBSE has released the date sheet for Class 10th and 12th Term 2 exams. The Class 10th exams will be held from 26th April to 24th of May, while Class 12th examinations will be held from 26th April to 15th of June. The exams will be conducted in a single shift. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Dehradun student Anurag Ramola for his painting titled Amrit Mahotsav of India's Independence. He also put up his painting on the narendramodi.in website. News now from business and economy. Industrial production expanded 1.3% in January 2022 on the back of improved performance of mining and manufacturing sectors. As per government data, the growth in the mining sector was 2.8% against a contraction of 2.4% in January 2021. Manufacturing sector, meanwhile, expanded 1.1% in January compared to a contraction of 0.9% in the year-ago month. However, growth in power generation decelerated to 0.9% as against an expansion of 5.5% in January 2021. In the April-January period of the current fiscal, the IIP growth stood at 13.7% as against a contraction of 12% in the corresponding period of 2020-21. There's a bit of good news on oil front after Russia's assurance that it will fulfill its supply obligations and European nations' reluctance to ban Russian oil. The markets took a breather. In fact, prices at the major exchanges eased down. On Thursday, Brent crude was at $110 per barrel. On Monday, Brent had touched $139.13 a barrel, which is the highest since 2008. And time for a short break here, but on the other side, South Korea gets new president. We'll tell you all about the new South Korean president on the other side when we return, so do stay with us.
What was the UN doing till now? Why could it not prevent a full-fledged war from breaking out? And what should India do to protect its interests?
India is a quintessential emerging power in terms of our relations with and within the United Nations.
The United Nations is not irrelevant. We have to make it work better. This crisis shows that it is time for India to take a more proactive diplomatic effort.
Thanks for staying with us on the news. Time now for all the updates coming in from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So Russia has stepped up its offensive in Ukraine, launching strikes in Dnipro for the first time on Friday. The move comes on the heels of President Putin saying that he is allowing volunteers, including from abroad, to fight alongside the Russian-backed forces in eastern Ukraine. Here's a report.
The 64-kilometer-long Russian convoy is once again on the move. Its movement signaling a renewed push towards Ukrainian capital, Kiev. The firm that took the photos, Maxar Technologies, says parts of the convoy are in positions in surrounding towns. Stepping up its onslaught, Russia is accusing Ukraine of running biological labs. Western nations fear that Moscow is looking at excuses to use more deadly weapons on Ukraine. Meanwhile, a meeting between Russian and Ukrainian foreign ministers in Turkey's Antalya city did not yield any results. But their meeting itself was a great initiative. In fact, the Russian foreign minister emphasized that President Putin never said no talks with President Zelensky. He also assured that Russia had no plans to attack any other country. On Thursday, European Union leaders met at Versailles in France. While EU member states were united in backing Ukraine's resistance, they were divided on how fast Ukraine will be accepted as a member and how swiftly can it cut energy ties with Moscow. In the war games on the ground, Ukrainian cities continue to be bombarded. The casualties are increasing. People are fleeing homes. The UNHRC says that 2.3 million people have been displaced in just 2 weeks of conflict, which doesn't have an endgame in sight in the near future. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
So as the exodus of people from Ukraine continues, the US Parliament has approved a $13.6 billion emergency package for military and humanitarian aid to the country and the European allies as well. The US Parliament approved the bill by 68-31 votes. Part of the funds will be spent on providing arms and equipment to Ukraine and also sending American troops to other European countries in the eastern side. The rest will be used for humanitarian, economic cooperation, strengthening the defense capability of regional allies, as well as cybersecurity.
On Ukraine, Putin was counting on a divided NATO, a divided West, and quite frankly, a divided America. But he got none of that. In fact, he's now facing a more united, energized, resolute NATO in the West than he ever imagined.
Meanwhile, India has thanked Ukraine, Russia and the Red Cross for helping to evacuate its citizens from the war-torn cities of the country. A special Indian Air Force aircraft carrying Indian students evacuated from Sumy city arrived at the Hinton Air Base from Poland. The operation to evacuate 600 students from the Ukrainian city of Sumy began on Tuesday morning. The students had an emotional reunion with their parents in Delhi.
अच्छा फील हो रहा है, रियली फील हो रहा है, हम सेफ जगह है, अभी बंकर में भागने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी थोड़ी देरों में
गवर्नमेंट ने जो है हमारी हेल्प की है, हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हुई, डायरेक्ट बसेस मिली, ट्रेन्स मिली, डायरेक्ट प्रॉपर इवैक्यूएशन हुआ है, ना हमें बॉर्डर पे खड़े रहने पड़ा 5 to 6 जैसे पहले बच्चों को रहना पड़ता था, तो अब हमारा अच्छा था इवैक्यूएशन से।
3 days कंटिन्यू ट्रैवल किया है यहाँ तक आने के लिए, एम्बेसी वालों ने हमारे लिए बहुत हेल्प की है, 3 दिन से लगातार हमको सेफ यहाँ तक पहुँचाया है।
इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने, रेड क्रॉस ने, सबने मिलकर के बहुत अच्छे तरीके से काम किया, एक ग्रीन कॉरिडोर हमारे लिए बनाया। वो लंबा रास्ता था लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत सेफली हम लोगों को वहाँ से निकालने का काम किया।
In some other updates from across the world, South Korean President Moon Jae-in congratulated the new president-elect Yoon Suk-yeol in a phone call on Thursday. Yoon is a conservative former top prosecutor who defeated his chief liberal rival in one of the country's most closely fought presidential elections. He will take office in May and serve a single 5-year term as leader of the world's 10th largest economy. Yoon had more than 48.6% of the votes against his rival Lee Jae-myung's 47.8%. Survivors of opioid addiction and people who lost loved ones to the crisis confronted makers of the painkiller OxyContin at a hearing in a U.S. bankruptcy court. The Sackler family owns Purdue Pharma that, along with other drug makers, encouraged overprescription of opioids, leading to overdoses and addictions across America. The Sackler family admitted to helping fuel the epidemic by paying healthcare companies as well as doctors to prescribe its drugs that were paid by public healthcare programs. For new parents with growing children, finding sustainable clothing and diapers can be a challenge. But now in the UK, a number of companies are hoping to fill the gap in the market by producing products such as reusable wipes and by offering baby clothes you can rent. Here's a report.
Keeping a baby dressed in the first year can be expensive, not to mention the cost of new clothes to the environment. With more parents post-pandemic showing a preference for eco-friendly lifestyles, the London Baby Show has some solutions. One of them is this rental service for these baby clothes that can be swapped for the next size as the infant grows. The returned clothes are professionally cleaned and sanitized for the next renting family. According to the companies, renting can help save up to 75%. There are also reusable wipes and nappies. Cleaning requires a rinse cycle in the washing machine first, followed by a regular full cycle. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And time now for all the sporting action. The second test between India and Sri Lanka gets underway tomorrow at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru. It's going to be the first time a day-night pink ball test match is played at the venue. Sri Lanka, who lost in the first test by an innings and 222 runs at Mohali, will be missing Padam Nisanka in the second test with a back injury. The Chinnaswamy Stadium is permitting 100% capacity for this match. Indian women have to pull up their socks and come up with a much better performance against an informed West Indies in the Women's World Cup match tomorrow. India have a 1 victory and 1 loss record till now, and to remain in contention for the semi-finals, a victory in tomorrow's match at Hamilton is going to be of paramount importance for Mithali Raj's team. In a Women's World Cup match played today between Pakistan and South Africa, The Proteas women won a thriller by 6 runs. Batting first, South Africa posted a competitive 223 for 9. Umaima Sohail and Nida Dar with half centuries kept Pakistan on track, but their chase came apart near the closing stage and South Africa were able to hold on for an exciting win. Also, Pakistan's men's team will take on Australia in the second of the 3 tests starting in Karachi tomorrow. The first test played between the two teams at Rawalpindi ended in a dull draw. The pitch at the National Stadium, Karachi, will be in focus after all-round criticism of the 22 yards provided at Rawalpindi. Both teams are said to be bringing in changes for the second test. Meanwhile, Kidambi Srikanth progressed to the men's singles quarterfinals, but two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu and Saina Nehwal bowed out following losses at the German Open Super 300 badminton tournament on Thursday. The 7-seeded Sindhu suffered a shock 14-21, 21-15, 14-21 loss to China's Zhang Yiman. Saina, meanwhile, went down 10-21, 15-21 to her Thai opponent in a lopsided contest. Both Indian women lost in the second round matches. Having got their campaign off to a decent start, the Indian women's hockey team would look to return to winning ways against a higher-ranked Germany in the 2-leg tie of the FIH Pro League. The first match will be played in Bhubaneswar on Saturday. Playing their debut season in the Pro League, the Indian women made a fine start to their campaign, beating China 7-1 and 2-1 in their opening 2 games in Muscat. Art Dubai opened in the UAE, giving a platform to artists from the global south. The artworks influenced by Impressionism, Cubism and Modernism are on display. And for the first time, the show has a digital art and NFT section.
Art Dubai showcases works of modern and contemporary artists from the global south, a region that refers to regions of Latin America, Asia, Africa and Oceania. It is an important platform for artists who otherwise might not get as much exposure. The exhibition has worked by both emerging and established artists. Indian artist Robin Mandal's paintings hang in one of the galleries, taking up 3 huge walls. The modern section houses the equivalent of Monet and Picasso in the Arab world. Emirati artist Mehta Abdullah's large-scale oil paintings show figures in motion surround a sculpture of 2 human figures with a pig and a rooster head wrestling. The sculpture shows struggle and harmony, while the paintings represent assemblages of memories and human interactions.
So for Art Dubai, it really made itself a platform in the Arab world, and not only in the Arab world, but internationally as well, with all the amazing galleries that are coming in to show in Art Dubai in this kind of dynamic and extremely international art scene that is happening, It's
For the first time, the show has a digital art and NFT section that examines ways in which NFTs, cryptocurrency, virtual reality and video art have grown. It showcases how NFTs are playing a growingly important role in the art scene today. The fair features over 400 artists and has 30 first-time participants. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And before we wrap up, a reminder of the day's top stories. Need to make villages self-reliant and strong, says Prime Minister Modi at Panchayat Mahasammelan in Gujarat. Post-poll verdict, political activities intensify for government formation in the BJP states of Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Goa and Manipur. In Punjab, Bhagwant Mann to take oath as the Chief Minister on 16th of March. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla underscores role of the youth in making democratic institutions accountable to the public. And Russian military forces bomb western cities of Ukraine. President Putin approves volunteers fighting alongside the Russian troops. Indian Air Force plane brings evacuated Indian students from Poland to Delhi. India thanks Russia, Ukraine and Red Cross for help in the evacuations. So that's it from us in this bulletin. Thanks for your time. Good night.